film you're about to see are the edited highlights of film shot on the River Severn and the River Wye on the 7th, 8th and 9th of July 2016. The idea was to see if it was possible to travel the 10 miles from Sharpness to Chepstow, leaving Sharpness 2 hours before high water, then the 6 miles up the River Wye to Brockweir on one tide. At about 900 hours we move into the sea lock, then moor alongside a wide beam vessel to wait for the last vessel before we lock down. We've left the lock and are the first to leave as we pass through the outer lock gates.
Here we go.
As we pass the left port outer dock entrance, you can see the flood tide on its way in at about 4 knots at the base of the pier. I have to increase the boat's speed to overcome the 4 knots of tide to make headway. Just off the port, left bow, about 2 miles distance, you can see the first Berkeley nuclear power station. Just over the river on the starboard side, you can see Lydney Harbour and the yacht club and the Forest of Dean in the background. Ahead, you can see the channel marker for Haywood Rocks. We've now turned and altered course to cut across the River Severn. On the port side you can see one of the channel markers, Sandalwood Rocks. In the distance, the second nuclear power station. The white building on the starboard side is one of the bases for SARA Severn Rescue. We're now passing under the old Severn Bridge, past one of the pier supports. You can see the new Severn crossing 3 miles downstream. We're now turning to starboard into the River Wye, up to Chepstow Bridge. Just ahead is Chepstow Road Bridge. The tide is about half spent. We still have about 4 metres of water under the boat.
Didn't do a very good job on it, did they?
As we round the corner, Chepstow Castle comes into view on the left. The strait ahead is just over a mile long. In about half a mile we pass over the remains of Weir. We still have about 3 metres of water under the boat. On the starboard side, we're just passing the remains of the Church of St. James, built in about the 12th century.
I reckon there's a Weir here somewhere.
We've just passed over Walter's Weir, with about 2 metres of water under the boat. Just a few hundred metres further upstream is Live Oaks Trough Weir. About a mile above that is Wall Weir, which might be a problem because of lack of water. The tide ebb is almost spent. The river is at low summer level. We're now on top of Wall Weir. The film has not been cut, so you can see it in almost real time. The Wye is not for the faint-hearted. This is where we dry out and wait for the afternoon's incoming tide.
We're on the big rock. We're on the rock. Watch yourself. Drop your anchor.
Andy dropped the anchor. As soon as it bites, I put the boat in gear and move to the bank. Right, get ready with your anchor. We then throw a small river anchor to the right to secure it until the tide is gone.
Do it again.
The still photos show the boat dried out on the weir, the tide just on its way in. We floated off Wall Weir and are 500 metres upstream, just short of Stow Weir, about a mile from Tinton, where we should have been if we'd left Sharpness 2 hours before high water as requested.
Another hour. I reckon that's it there.
The last corner before Tinton, you can see the old rail bridge in the distance. Tinton was an important local port 100 years ago. You would have seen sailing ships tied up all alongside the wall.
Andy. Well, it's had a new roof on it by the look of it.
I would say so.
That's a lot of fucking money. Well, the tide's supposed to be 8 fucking metres. Doesn't look like it, does it?
No.
That used to be a public slipway there, look.
Brockweir Quay and bridge come into sight. The tide height is 8.7 metres, about 1 metre higher than
Right,
at
you've
the
got
moment.
a short rope to tie onto that rope on the top, haven't you? And then we'll put the anchor out.
High water at Brockweir is 11:26 hours. The height of the tide will be 8.3 metres. We leave as soon as the boat floats at 09:50 hours. Tinton Abbey comes into view on the starboard side. The abbey was partly demolished in 1537 by an order of Henry VIII.
That's turned the other way now, isn't it?
That's the way it was done before.
Is it?
Yeah, that is facing us.
We're now passing over Weir, where we dried out yesterday. We have about 5 metres of water under the boat. Chepstow Castle comes into view. The tide has turned. The river is about a metre lower than at high water. The bridge comes into view. The tide almost covers the stone piers.
It's taking you round, isn't it?
As you can see, the river current takes you to the left into the bank. What you see on the right is what is left of the old quays, warehouses of what was Chepstow Docks. We have now left Chepstow and are about 1.5 miles from the River Severn. What is not shown is the sea state by the old Severn Bridge. As the Severn comes into view, all you could see across the sandbar at the mouth of the river were standing waves 3 to 4 foot high. A decision was taken to return to Chepstow, moor alongside the trip boat next to the pub, a Quay diesel to top up the boat, have a beer while waiting for fuel, then go 1 mile upstream and drop the anchor, wait till Saturday for the wind to ease. We're now half a mile upstream above the castle, where we're going to anchor. This area doesn't dry out. We put out a plough anchor with a chain, scope and 30 metres of rope. The tide is next in at about 22:30 hours. Low water is 05:30 hours. We will have enough water under the boat to lift the anchor at 08:30 hours Saturday AM. 0700, tide on its way in, boat turns on its anchor. We wait till 8:30 before we lift the anchor. We're now moving back down the Wye towards the River Severn. We have to be there by 09:15 hours, so as not to be too early at Sharpness. The pier is manned 2 hours before high water. Halfway between the bridges, today the wind and tide are in the same direction. No standing waves as we turn upstream towards the old Severn Bridge. We've just turned to port above the old bridge and are now following the navigation channel.
Yeah.
We've now crossed over the Severn and turned to follow the river channel towards Sharpness Dock and Lock. You can now see the entrance to the sea lock 200 metres ahead.
Further than you think.
The last 100 metres are in real time, so you get some idea of the speed of the tide and of the problems of aiming your boat at the starboard side of the outer entrance, so you don't get swept past the entrance. We now square up to pass through the outer lock gate and take some instructions from the lock keeper.
We just spoke to him. Yeah, there he is there now. Tell us which one to go on.
Andy, give him a shout.
Which side? It'd be better if you went on this side. Alright. Four cruisers will block down.
We're told to moor on the left pier.
Them down, put them
Not easy, as there is no pontoon.
in, and then you alongside the ship. Right, you can go on the on the left. So if you want that, it's up to you really, but you can make room. You go on that side for the four cruisers, but eventually on the port side. Just go up gently and see that
Morning.
side. The ship will be here in about half hour. So
Well, we've
if
seen
you're
it.
on
We've
board,
seen it coming through by the new Severn crossing.
Yeah, you're not far off. He's coming across now, he is. He's in Shepherd now,
So-
you're not far.
On the left-hand side.
Yeah, if you go on the left, on the port, there's 4 cruisers what goes in on the basin. Ship in, once the ship's tied up, you'll be away, you come in alongside the ship.
Where's the pontoon, Andy?
In the second one.
What's the lock?
Andy, if you could put one round the clip. Yeah, I'll come and give you a hand.
We go in alongside the Russian freighter and lock up into the docks. We leave the lock and wait for the bridge to open. Pass through, then back up to the moorings. Turn the engine off, the coffee on. Time to reflect on 3 hectic days on the River Severn and Wye.